Hi, Tim Lerch here. Today I want to talk to you about chord progressions, inversions, and voice leading, especially voice leading. We're going to talk about these things in sort of in the realm of triads because it's easier to understand if we're dealing with triads primarily. So first of all, let's just ask, what is voice leading? Voice leading simply means the movement of each note in one chord to another note in the next chord. So if I have a D chord, right now I'm playing a first inversion D triad, D major triad. And it's spelled 3-5-1, or the third is in the bass, the fifth, and then the root. If I want to move it to G, which is the 4 chord in the key of D, I can leave the top note the same because both of those chords contain a D note. I can move the bottom note 1/2 step up, and then I can move the middle note up a whole step to B, and I have a total of 3 1/2 step movement, a 1/2 step here and then 2 1/2 steps there, and we would consider this good voice leading. Okay? It's also possible to play a D here and then move all the way up here to a G, and that would be a lot more 1/2 steps moving. All of the notes are moving up and forth, and in musical terminology at least, that's considered poor voice leading. Now, if you have a song that does that and it sounds good to you, that doesn't mean that suddenly you have to think that that thing is bad. There's plenty of examples of what music school would call poor voice leading that are very popular sounds, and we've gotten used to that. And so we're going to think about this in terms of how can we move minimally from one chord to the next and have the inherent beauty that comes as a result of that. So we have this. You can see there's very subtle movement there. Now, just then I played A7 to D. So if we combine 3 chords in our voice leading scenario, we can increase the beauty even more. So we can say 4, that's a G chord, 5, A7, and then move that to D. Now look at the voice leading between A7 and D. The G, which was held over from the G chord, moves down a 1/2 step. The A, which is already going to stay right there because that's in the D chord as well, then the C sharp on top moves up. It's so satisfying. Okay, so we have G, A7, and then D. I can make more melody, maybe like that, so. That kind of thing helps to increase the value of the voice leading, I think, in some ways. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to look at the inversions of all of those chords so that we can do this type of voice leading in different parts of the fingerboard. So here is the D chord in all of its inversions on this set of strings. First inversion starting down low, second inversion at the 7th fret here, and then the root position here. Okay, we do the same thing with G. We start on the root position, go to the first inversion, and then we finally to the second inversion. And then for the A7, we'll play there's a couple of different variations on this one. We play with the flat 7 in the bass. That's a third inversion, but it's a little bit funny because we've left out the 5th in order to play this chord. So really it's like a second inversion A with the 5th replaced by the flat 7. Then we're going to go here. That's a root position. And then this one here, which is first inversion, and then another second inversion one. With these A7 chords, what I'm doing is I'm leaving out the root or the fifth and replacing either one of those with the flat 7. So there's a few more possibilities, which makes it kind of fun. So let's voice lead 4, G, 5, A7, and 1. Okay, in all of those spots. So we have 4, 5, and 1. And I'm adding a little melody just to move things around. Do that again. 4, 5, 1. One more time with no talking. Now we're going to move to the next station. I'm using the same G, but I'm moving to a different A7. Now I'm going to use a new G. Sorry. Try again. New G. A7 up here. Try that one again in a second. G. A7. And D in root position. Now the top one. G, A7, and now we're back where we started. So in all of those examples, I used a little bit of melodic movement as well in order to smooth out and really make melody out of the chord progression. And this is what voice leading can allow us to do. We can turn what might be conceived of as individual grips that we learn, and then we move from one to the next in a blocky fashion. And by doing it this way, we can start to see what I call fluid harmony, meaning that the voices are actually creating the chords rather than just the chords lumping around. Now, there might be a couple of different obvious scenarios where you can use this stuff. Let's say you're playing a simple song and the other guitar player or the piano player is strumming along, playing the basic chords. Then you can make little melodic orchestrations out of these types of triadic movements with good voice leading. I always say, I never had anybody at a recording session or at a rehearsal or on a gig to say to me, "Hey, Tim, stop playing those tasty little things with those triads. Nobody likes those." No one's ever said that to me. In fact, they usually say, "Oh, yeah, that's it, do that." Okay? So let me show you a little example of how I might spontaneously play 4, 5, 1 in the key of D using an A7 chord for the 5 chord. Now that was a little pretty and fancy. You could do it tougher. You could do it in an R&B context. You could do it in a blues context. There's all kinds of things you can do with triads as they're being voice-led well between each other. And like I said, the lesson today is not about a style so much as it is about a mechanism that we can use that will really fit into just about any style of music, perhaps. Okay, so now let's open those chords up a little bit. And now we have a G chord here, an A7 here, and a D chord here. We'll leave that flat 7 out of there, sorry. Now we're looking a little bit more like our regular bar chords, but I'm not playing. I'm separating them out with my right hand. first time I went down to the lower D because I wanted to hear this. Right? That's voice leading. A7 to D. Okay? So we can play around with those types of ideas. And now I'm using my right hand to separate the voices. So it may look like I'm playing a D7 here, but I'm only plucking out the root, the fifth, and the third, followed by the fifth on top. Let's see. Okay, played a little B minor there for a second and then resolved it into D. If you're in the key, a major key particularly, this all would apply to minor keys as well, but it's easier to talk about it in terms of a major key because most people understand that a little better. If you want to use triads inside of a major key, it's a really good idea to learn how to play what I call triad scales. Now, a triad scale is a way of playing all of the chords in a key in the same voicing. So for instance, first inversion, key of D major. But one inversion isn't enough. In order to have good voice leading, we need to be able to have the 3 inversions so that we can move from one inversion to the next because we want to have good close voice leading. Okay, so let's say we're in the key of D. I'm going to start on an E minor, which is the lowest root position chord that I can find in the key. E minor, F sharp minor, G, A, B minor, C sharp diminished, and D. With a funny open string ringing down below them, sorry. And so now we have 2 of them. And then we're going to go here, and here's our D. Let's see, we'll start on B minor then. Oh, let's start on A. It's the 5th degree of D. And in fact, we could start on 3 open strings too. The G chord, the A, B minor, C sharp diminished, D, and then E minor. These are the second inversion ones. Okay. And then I'll play my first inversion D at the end. Now, if you can manage to get these inversions of all of these triad scales sorted out, voice leading will become kind of second nature. It really will work because that's exactly what we're doing. And we're oftentimes doing them in systems as well. So if I have that same kind of chord progression, well, let's use a different one. Let's do a 2-5-1 instead of 4-5-1. So here's in the key of D, E minor is my 2, A7 is my 5, and then D is my 1. And let's go to B minor, 2-5-1-6. So we have 2, 5, 1, 2, 5, 1, and then 6. So it sounds a little bit classical, but that's mainly because of the way I'm affecting it right now. I think that, once again, to sort of make this point, we're not really talking about style here so much as we're talking about fundamental harmonic movements. Now, chord progressions oftentimes use many chords that are in the same key. The more interesting of them might use chords that are not in the key, but they're led to by voice leading. So what if we have, in the key of D, D major, D major 7, D E7, G, G minor, D, A7, D. So I used some notes in that progression that weren't in the key. So I went from the D, I'll play roots so you can hear them now, to D major 7, to D7. D7 wants to go to G, and I made G minor, which is not in the key. Then back to D, and then 5. Okay, so if you're aware of the voice leading, a lot of these chord progressions that sound kind of exotic or fancy, and you may not know what they're doing, but if you listen to the voice leading, you'll be able to hear the inner motion, and it will make a lot more sense to you. Okay, now here's a little assignment for you. Learn how to play a D major, key of D major, triad scale using root position, first inversion, and second inversion triads. Those will be 3 different fingerings for this scale. It'll locate you in different places on the board, and then start playing songs that you already know, the chord progressions from songs you already know, and start using these triads and pay attention to the voice leading. All right, I'll leave you with that, and we'll see you the next time.